It's a party, all right.
Good. It was fun. That bonfire does a good job.
All right, I have 6 o'clock. If everybody would join me in saying the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right. And roll call, please, Christy.
Martin. Present. Schreiner.
Here.
Levinsky.
Here.
Papenfort.
Present.
Stevens.
Here.
Fontana.
Here.
Mayor Catelli.
Present.
The quorum is present.
All right, moving on to consent agenda. Any thoughts, comments, questions, or motions?
Yes, Mr. Mayor, I would like to have item number 4 brought down to new business, please.
Second.
Okay. Well, I guess, do we put that to a vote, or does it, it just takes 2, right? Okay, then we'll move that to new business, number 4. Any other discussion pieces there?
I move to approve the consent agenda items 1 through 3.
Second.
Okay.
40.
All right, we have a motion by Councilmember Papenfort, seconded by Councilmember Stevens, and that is to combine and approve items 1 through 3 on the consent agenda. Any further discussion? All right.
Fontana.
Yes.
Papenfort.
Yes.
Martin.
Yes.
Stevens.
Yes.
Schreiner.
Yes.
Rovinsky.
Yes.
Motion passed.
Okay. And moving on to citizens' comment. Also, if anybody wants to say anything and hasn't signed up, please do so now, going once, going twice. This is an opportunity for the city council to hear from our community. The public will be limited to 3 minutes each during citizens' comment. You'll hear a little alarm bell go off, and that means that I won't have to awkwardly interrupt. The city council may take your comments and suggestions under advisement and even address them during council reports, which is at the end of our meeting tonight, and could even direct questions to appropriate departments for follow-up. And if necessary, the city administrator can and will correct the public record. Oh, and also all you have to do is just give your name. You don't have to give your address. Up first, we have Harry Hansen.
Good evening. Let me get queued up here. Harry Hansen, I have riveting experience jewelry downtown. Council members, staff, Mr. Mayor, fellow citizens, I'm here tonight to express my deep concern regarding the behavior of Mr. Danny Taylor and his friends standing on our street in downtown Salida with their loaded firearms prominently displayed. There was an incident Sunday afternoon involving customers of my business, Riveting Experience Jewelry, and Mr. Taylor that has led me to be here this evening. My customers, who traveled over 3 hours just to come to my place of business, were verbally abused by Mr. Taylor or his cohort for expressing their concern over his method of expression of his Second Amendment rights. My customers were visibly shaken when they came through my door. While I understand that we all have a right to free speech, it concerns me deeply when Mr. Taylor is claiming to exercise his constitutional rights, but when someone who came here to spend their hard-earned money in our community disagrees with him, he does not possess the self-discipline and dignity to not verbally abuse and menace them. It concerns me that he stands on our streets with a loaded firearm while demonstrating for all to see that he is not able to remain composed and controlled in the face of scrutiny over his particular method of expression. It concerns me deeply that if violence were to break out on our streets, it would result in Mr. Taylor not only losing control of his temper, but also losing control of his firearm, resulting in more, not less, casualties on our streets. Mr. Taylor has shown through previous incidents caught on video and again this past Sunday that he does not have the discipline and self-control to be the good guy with the gun that he claims to be, supposedly protecting our community. He is, in fact, and by his own demonstrated behavior, a liability to the security and safety of our community and a liability to the financial success of our downtown, not to mention a disgrace to the very fabric and culture of our community. In my opinion, if you do not possess the discipline to control your emotions and behave with honor, respect, and dignity towards those who disagree with you, publicly displaying a loaded firearm on the streets of our town is only going to result in eventual tragedy. I do not know what the answer to this problem is, but it is important that you all understand that there is, in fact, a problem. Without self-discipline, honor, and integrity, open carry of a firearm is simply constitutionally protected menacing of our society. We all have a right to go about our business without worrying that someone who needs attention this badly is going to cause tragedy on our streets because they are so insecure that they cannot control their emotions when confronted with opposition. I have a right to conduct my business without worrying that the customers I work for and spend my hard-earned money to attract to our community are going to be abused for expressing their concern. Free speech should not extend to public abuse of those who disagree with you. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. And up next we have Jennifer Ricci.
Hi. Thank you for hearing us. My incident took place a couple summers ago. This has been going on every Sunday in the summer at 291 and F Street. And I don't even go down and work on Sundays anymore because of Danny Thomas. I had set up, my computer was ready to open up the office for clients to come in. I work at HomeSmart Preferred Realty. And Danny and two of his armed friends came walking down F Street. It was closed off, and it was like the sea parted. All these people on F Street that were there to spend money and possibly would have walked into my office took off. And so I walked out to him, and I said, "May I ask what your intentions are?" He said, "I'm demonstrating my Second Amendment rights." And I said, "Well, I understand the Second Amendment, and it was written at a time when the firearms we were handling were muskets, and we couldn't kill 100 people in a minute with what he had." He didn't like me saying that. And then at about the same time, one of his friends had a Bible and was saying something about the Bible, and a homeless man walked by. And the homeless man looked and said, "God bless you," to this guy. And he said, he didn't like it. He thought he was being sarcastic, and he yelled at him, "I wouldn't pray for you anyway." And it was just an ugly, completely ugly incident. But the whole point of it is it's hurting business on F Street. He made the comment, as I said, "You're hurting our business." He said, "Well, then you must not have a good business." All the F Street merchants there have good businesses. We all have a right to have our customers and our clients walk into our places of business and not be intimidated. And what he's doing is intimidating. Those are the same weapons that kill people in mass shootings, and it's intimidating. So I don't know what the question or the answer is either. I wish I'd prepared something like Harry did that was so well spoken. I didn't even know about this until a little bit ago. But my experience has not been good, and it's not good for our businesses or the community. And we all spend money and time. Anybody that has a business here is trying to promote Salida, and that's driving people away. And that's all I have to say.
And we have Mimi Saccone.
Hi, I'm also not very well planned. I'm Mimi Saccone. I'm a retired state of Colorado employee. I am in Salida approximately 4 times a year, 2 to 6 times, 2 to 6 weeks every time. Animal sitting for longtime friends of mine. I've been doing this for about 15 years, so I've met a lot of the business owners here, but I've had my first interaction with Danny, or whatever his name is, last Sunday. I was on my phone outside of a store really close to the corner, and I was talking to my daughter, and I wasn't even paying attention to them. They were behind me, maybe 50 feet or so. And I get off the phone and I turn around that direction. He goes, "What'd you do, call 911?" And I was like, "Excuse me?" And he said, "Did you call 911?" I said, "No." And I looked at his flag upside down, and it was in a distress symbol. And I said, "Well, should I? Because are you in distress? What are you in distress over?" And he said that, and I know this because I come from a long line of military people, father, brother, both my kid's dad, you know. And I said, "What are you in distress over?" And he said, "Charlie Kirk's murder." And I was just like, oh, the guy that wants to stone my son to death because he's gay. And then he just started screaming at me. I don't even know what he was saying. And I said, "By the way, I was on my phone with my daughter, who is an active military person and would never act like that." And they just started screaming at my back, and I walked away kind of like with my hands up like this, and then I did flip them off, so I did get aggressive. But the next Sunday, so this past Sunday, I was coming down around the corner to go pick up a friend of mine, and they're there, and I'm not a shake, I'm shaking now, but I don't normally shake, and I was afraid to walk by him. I didn't, because I kind of recognizable just because of the way I look. And I was afraid they were going to recognize me and say something or start screaming at me again. But I just wanted to let you know what it's like to be a customer down here, because it makes it really hard. And I'm here a lot. I spend a lot of money when I'm down here. I live in Cheyenne, Wyoming. There is not good shopping there. So just want to let you know, that's why I'm here. And I want to thank one of the business owners who told me about this, or I wouldn't have known. So thank you for your time.
Thank you. And Chris Scoggin.
Hello, Mr. Mayor, members of the council. My name is Chris Scoggin. I'm a local attorney, live locally as well here. Also, just want to express my concerns about, the First Amendment here. When I was in high school, I was at Cherry Creek High School. We were locked down from Columbine with this shooting. This year, my nieces down in Evergreen, they had to run away from an active shooting event as well. There should be no tolerance for this when we feel unsafe in our own community. When I was down at FIBARC this year, I had to explain to my 8-year-old and my 12-year-old why there's someone with a fully armed automatic rifle behind us, and say, just ignore him. Don't worry, it's okay. We just have to say, just ignore him and he'll go away. I don't think, and obviously, the local businesses here and what they're saying, there's concerns about this having a negative impact on the city as far as the income that comes to us, and really just the general welfare and overall tone. As an attorney, I know there's concerns about, First Amendment expression as well as Second Amendment expression of rights. I think there's a way to do that while still respecting the safety of our local citizens. I'd like to show you an example of one way to express your First Amendment rights without making people feel unsafe about it. Thank you, that is all.
All right, thank you. All right, do we have anybody online?
There's no one online.
All right, well, I will close citizen comment, and we will move on to unfinished business. Ordinance 2026-21, an ordinance of the City Council of the City of Salida, Colorado, approving amendments to Chapter 16 Land Use Code. This is a second reading, and I hereby open the public hearing. And up first, we'll have city staff summarizing their report.
Evening, Mayor and Council. I'm up here with Corey Cece, who is our new associate planner. Corey's going to do the majority of this presentation, but I just wanted to give it a little bit of a backdrop to this particular item. As you all know, we adopted the new land use code at the end of last year. And as with any land use code that's hundreds and hundreds of pages with lots and lots of words, there's likely to be a number of changes that are identified as we learn a little bit more about it, as we end up using it, and have an opportunity to put it into action. So this is probably the first of several, if not many, potential land use code updates that will come in front of this council while this particular land use code is in effect. And we've done our best to try and break it out into 3 different areas of types of changes, some that are major policy-oriented changes, some that are minor policy-oriented changes, and others that are just administrative changes and corrections. If you could go to the next slide, please. So that lays out just what I said basically there. Let's go to the next one. We did bring this in front of Planning Commission back in June and had a really robust conversation over a couple of meetings with them and got their recommendation for the changes, plus a few specific items that they asked us to move forward to work with the attorney's office to come up with specific language on under specific parameters. And the 4 items that we did make some changes to since that planning commission meeting are listed there: the non-conforming site features, the cottage and co-housing, sidewalk fee in lieu information, and then parks dedication applicability. Next slide. In addition to those, there have been a few minor changes that we have also made that are all laid out there in the council action form. And just want to bring some attention to those. Some of them are just grammatical changes. A few others are just clarifying definitions and titles, such as for the mixed-use highway center zone district, or mixed-use center zone district, excuse me. Certain information about corner lots, large-scale development, easements, and the other error corrections that we talked about. So, next slide. And then lastly, we noted a couple administrative changes that we wanted to make specific to open space signage standards, which frees up the city to put in more signage that may be necessary in the parks than may be otherwise regulated in the residential zone districts or the mixed-use zone districts. And then one specific clarification of multiple principal structures being more than one structure on a particular lot. So with that, next slide, I'm going to pass it over to Corey, and Corey's going to dive into all the substantive changes that we're talking about here.
Mr. Mayor, Council, good evening. Like Bill said, I'm going to be starting off this with our substantive policy and process amendments, and we just wanted to call these out specifically since they are the most impactful of the changes that are made. Next slide, please. So the first is going to be corner lot setbacks. So the current code, we identified a potential issue in terms of just determining where the front lot line is. Obviously, setbacks are impacted by what's considered the front, side, and rear lot lines. And we identified that there could be some issues, especially for older lots that tend to be narrow and skinny, that might be addressed along the skinny, or along the longer side. And so this just gives the director a little bit more discretion to determine what the front lot line is, just based on a broader group of characteristics. So things like where it's addressed off of, the front block face, the front entrance of the building, just to make sure that those lots in those situations where they're unusually sized or shaped, that we're not limiting development for no real reason. Next slide, please. Outdoor vendors, currently in the code, it's separated into 2 categories. There's one outdoor vendor and more than one outdoor vendor. And currently for more than one outdoor vendor, it requires a conditional use permit. Our proposition is to allow, change those categories to 2 outdoor vendors and 3 or more. So in a lot of cases where 1 outdoor vendor would be permitted by right, now up to 2 are permitted by right, and then 3 or more are still going to require a CUP. Next, please. So for height on uneven lots, not much is actually changing in terms of the code or the intent of the code, but there's an existing graphic that was sort of difficult for staff to interpret and we felt was giving conflicting guidance to the actual written language in the code. So we are proposing some new language that just clarifies the intent and updating the graphic to remove some unintended consequences. This is specifically for calculating height allowances on lots where there's a significant height disparity between, one corner of the lot and the other, or the front and the back, just in cases of, you might have a significant amount of the building that's under what's considered that average grade. And there's some provisions that just keep it from being like large blank wall faces, which is part of the intent of the height standard is removing those big blank wall faces. So that's for that slide. Thank you. The next is sidewalk fee in lieu. Currently, it's really unclear when it applies, both what developments or construction require the fee, and then also when in the process that fee is due. So our proposition is to, well, first of all, so there are requirements generally for larger developments where sidewalk construction, the actual construction of physical sidewalks is required. Those standards are staying the same. This is specifically for developments and construction which are required to produce a fee in lieu instead of the actual construction of the sidewalk. So we're renaming it from sidewalk fee in lieu to sidewalk improvement fee of lieu. We think that captures the intent of the fee a little bit better, because it's not just about the construction of the sidewalks, it's also to capture the maintenance of sidewalks, which of course don't have they need repairs and maintenance, and we've sort of been in contact with Public Works about when those maintenance and repairs start becoming required. And so this fee, the way we have it written is if regardless of if there is a sidewalk in front of your house or your development, if there is no sidewalk, then you'll have to pay the sidewalk improvement fee in lieu. If there is an existing sidewalk, we then look to that sidewalk construction date. And if the sidewalk is older than 20 years old, then the fee will be required. And that's 20 years from before the date of application. So that we think is going to allow us to just apply this fee in a way that is consistent, more consistent than the language currently in the code applies. Make it a little easier for staff to actually administer this fee. And again, just clarify when it applies. Next slide, please. Next is the visibility triangle. Currently, the visibility triangle is measured from the property line. We are proposing to measure the visibility triangle from the edge of the roadway. So this allows for, sometimes there might be a really wide sidewalk versus a really narrow sidewalk. And it just helps clarify what the visibility triangle is for, which is obviously for pedestrians and for cars especially, for their views of oncoming or crosswise traffic to not be blocked by things like fences or tall structures. And the distance between the property line and the sidewalk can have a huge impact in that. So that's why we propose measuring it from the roadway. This is particularly impactful in areas, again, where you've got older historic lots on corners that tend to be narrow. Nowadays, most corner lots tend to be wider to address this specific issue, but a lot of the historic lots are more narrow even on corners, and so having that visibility triangle on the property line might restrict development in a way that is unintended by staff. Next slide, please. So the next substantive then is murals. Currently, there's a couple issues. One is that it relies on a term business promotion, which isn't defined in the code. And we had some discussions in staff, what counts as business promotion? If you are an REI and you have a mural of kayaks, but there's no logos, does that count as business promotion? And so we talked among staff and of course with Nina about producing a definition for business promotion, because if a mural contains business promotion, it's treated differently than murals like the one shown here that are purely for like artistic purposes, artistic beautification, what have you. Also, the Arts and Culture Advisory Commission currently reviews certain mural types, but there aren't objective standards that they're reviewing for, and our fear is, we don't want to say, to be the arbiters of what makes a good mural or not outside of any just objective standards. We don't want to be, putting restrictions on what kind of art is good enough for the murals. However, the ACAC is still the approval authority for murals that are on city property. So this, they will no longer be the approval authority if it's on a private property. We've also added a mural permitting process, which is outlined more in the next slide. I'll give you a chance to read through this, but the big things of note here is that if you're outside of the historic district and on residential property, as long as there's no business promotion, you don't need a permit. If you're on non-residential property and there's no business promotion, a mural permit is required, where we just check to make sure, again, that you're not in a historic district, that it's not going to be something that somehow provides a distraction for people on the road, something that might conflict with other like road safety signage, things of that nature. Things that do contain business promotion then go through the sign permit process and will be subject to sign permit limits. However, if the mural is to exceed those sign permit limits, they can come in for a creative sign process that is already existing. And if it's inside the historic district, because it's being painted on the actual structure, it will have to go through the certificate of approval process. That's already the case, is that any painting of brick requires the certificate of approval if it's in the historic district. Next slide, please. The next is the location, character, and extent review. This is for things like schools and public structures and other spaces. This is already a process that has to happen. It just isn't codified, so we're just taking that and putting it into code. This is a state requirement. Next slide, please. Similar to the last slide, this is for the Home Act. This is state statute that's been approved, and that would have to be approved by council within, I think, the next year and a half anyways, and we figured we're already updating the code, so we'll put that language in there now. Next section, please. The next is cottage housing, sometimes called cottage courts. This is when generally smaller homes are arranged, usually in a U pattern, facing a shared public park or open space. Not always, but that is generally how you see it. And currently, our code doesn't require that the units be on individual lots, which was inconsistent with staff's understanding of what these cottage courts were supposed to be in terms of housing development. The code also combines cottage housing and co-housing, and it's staff understanding that these are two distinctly different housing types that should be separated and should be treated differently. So our proposition is to clarify that cottage housing must be detached homes on individual lots, and that cottage and co-housing are separate uses, so they're separated in the use table, and the use-specific standards have been sort of decoupled to reflect these new definitions. And something of note is that Planning Commission did recommend they wanting to explore this further, so that's something that will be brought up potentially in the future with Planning Commission. But these are the things that made it into this version of the code. Next slide, please. Non-conforming site features, so these are generally going to be things like required parking or landscaping, things of that nature. And right now there's no provision in the code to bring a site up to standard, even if there's a substantial addition. So a building might double their footprint size and still not have to meet certain requirements. And so our proposed amendment to this is for commercial mixed use and multifamily structures must come into compliance when the existing building footprint increases by 20% or 2,000 square feet, whichever is greater. There is also a provision in there that says, you must come into compliance to the maximum extent practicable as determined by the director. So that gives planning a little bit of leeway to say, yes, we want you to come into compliance, but we understand that this might be like a historic building or lot standards that do not allow you to fully come into compliance. And so this gives a little bit of discretion to say, okay, what can we possibly require from this edition? Next slide, please.
Yeah. And just a few quick clarifications on those policy items. The sidewalk fee in lieu, we've had that. This obviously just clarifies it. And I will also say, though, that much like some of our other funds and fees, those fees would go into a general pot for sidewalk work around the city. So if just because you may be paying for that sidewalk fee in lieu, that does not mean that you're going to have a little portion of a sidewalk then built in front of your house, right? That's very inefficient because in order to build a full sidewalk along a block, you really need to grade out the entire thing and do the entire thing at one time. That's why these sidewalks to nowhere are really a challenge. In many cases, Public Works actually needs to dig them up and replace them when they go ahead and build out the entire block. So it follows the whole idea that you don't always use the park that's right next to you. You may use a variety of parks around town to recreate, Alpine, Riverside Park, Marvin Park, whatever it may be. Same thing with sidewalks. You don't just use the sidewalk right in front of your house, so that you would be contributing to the overall pop. The visibility triangle change that Corey was talking about made me think of some of the comments, public comments that we received not too long ago about folks parking too close to the intersection. This will actually assist with that because now that triangle expands out into the right-of-way as opposed to where it is at the private property right now. We will work with Public Works to make sure that the striping along the curbs do correspond with that particular triangle. And then lastly, the cottage housing that Corey mentioned, there is an opportunity, even though we're defining it here as one unit on one lot, on individual lots, single ownership, there is an opportunity to do it, all those units on one single lot collectively. The Magpie Apartments, for instance, is an example of that. We just call that multifamily in multiple structures. So it's the same thing as if it was like an apartment building. It's just broken out into multiple structures. So with that, we also have a number of minor policy and process amendments. I don't want to go into too much detail. Next slide, please, Christy. But in the CAF, these are called out and shown, of course, in the code language itself. A number of changes from discussions around long-term RVs and tiny homes, the open space dedication applicability, lot frontage as a possible variance, some smaller changes along these lines that we went over in a fair amount of detail with Planning Commission. So that's all there for y'all. I'm happy to take questions about that afterwards. Next slide. And then lastly, just more administrative corrections, grammatical mistakes, spelling errors, a few clarifications here and there, and then some other things that have already been adopted by City Council and that we're just incorporating into this particular code. So with that, passing it back to Corey to finish it up.
Okay, do we do questions?
No, keep going.
Okay, thanks. Sorry, I'm still getting used to the processes, but I'll go over the review standards. Next slide, please. So we believe that this, that this meets the general approval criteria, which includes compliance with the code, compliance with other applicable regulations, compliance with prior approvals, and consistency with adopted plans. These are more of our review standards. Again, staff believes that it fully meets all of these criteria. And also, the Planning Commission recommended that the City Council approve the proposed code text amendments as they're consistent with the code and the review standards. They did have a couple things that they brought up as concerns that have been addressed, and they did give us some discretion to work with Nina, the lawyer, to make sure that those changes were all good to go from a legal standpoint, to make those small changes as they requested. And here is the recommended motion.
Great. Well, we'll move on to public comment. Has anybody signed up? Does anybody want to sign up? Want to say anything?
And there's no one online.
Nobody even online? Okay, well then, nothing to rebut. So now we can go to council questions, if anybody has anything.
I just have one.
Okay.
If you don't mind me starting.
No, yeah, we're good to go.
First, Corey, great presentation. It was wonderful. Better than the voice I use in my head to read it. It sounded great. The visibility triangle, I love that, as Bill said. We've been having problems with that lately, especially right beside my house. And the one question, this is probably a softball, but I just wanted to get what your thinking was. So you have that It is a sidewalk improvement fee in lieu now, and you are asking people to pay into that. But in the group that aren't paying into it, it's people who live right next to the sidewalks that most probably need improvement. Can you walk me through the thinking there? If it's 20 years or older, you don't need to pay into it.
If it's 20 years or older, you do.
Okay,
If it's younger,
all right.
if it's earlier than 20 years, you don't.
Okay. See, softball. Got it. Thank you.
Great, any other questions?
Can you just give me like a really brief summary of the conversation that Planning Commission had in those minor policies around RVs and tiny homes?
Yes, okay, so there's a couple different parts of that discussion. One is clarifying the definition between tiny home and tiny house. Tiny house being if it's on a permanent foundation, and that comes into effect when we look at ADUs. So an RV or a tiny home, which is like on a chassis, on wheels movable, those are not allowed to be used as additional dwelling units. So that's part of it. And then the other was clarifying things like long-term occupancy, long-term parking of vehicles. So there are provisions in code about, there's no more than 5 days at a time, I think, and time limits on how long RVs and tiny homes can be parked. And so some of that was just making sure that the clarification was there between what is a tiny home and tiny house, and that permanency aspect is the big difference between them. And there was also some changes made in the use table, I think some slight changes about when things were, in which districts where a long-term occupancy of an RV is allowed, and making that a little more clear as a use and in the use-specific standards about long-term occupancy of RVs and tiny homes.
Great.
And just
Thank you.
getting all that clarified.
Thanks.
I might have misheard you, Corey, but when you were going over the cottage, that slide, I thought you said that they do have to be separate lots for them?
Correct.
And then, but Bill, you said that you can build, like the Magpies, it is like a cottage, but it is one lot, but that's one lot.
There's,
So-
pardon me, I didn't mean-
No, yeah, just clarification on that.
So the form would look similar. I mean, if you were looking at the two, just with your eyes, not like on a plan, they would be in the same they could be in the same sort of formation. Cottage housing in particular is that, shared open space. They're on the individual lots. That was the staff intent when writing cottage housing that didn't make it into the final version of code. However, if that was all on one lot, that's still an allowable, form type and use. It just would qualify as multifamily housing,
okay.
which could look a variety of different ways to include that housing type.
Thank you.
And the main issue with that is that our code currently requires frontage for any lot onto a street. And so this allows for that particular makeup where the frontage could actually be onto an open space, but they could be alley loaded, for instance, to access each of the units via an alley. So gives a little bit of an exception, a little bit more flexibility with the building footprint.
And that open space is like that court, that thing that kind of connects all those individual lots in the middle.
All their porches, for instance, would all be facing onto a common cottage court,
see.
as they call it.
Right,
Okay.
a green space or maybe like a plaza type situation.
Okay.
Yeah, thank you guys for your ongoing commitment to this land use code. Yeah, my question was the same as Martin's there, as the cottage was the only thing that I really wanted a little bit more, clarification for, since you guys did a great job just now doing that. So, yeah, that's kind of all I had for you guys.
And I do like that we were able to circle back to those sight line triangles, if we can address that maybe, would that increase those, that kind of no parking designated? Are you seeing that, or would it be just like make it more clear on those edges?
I don't know 100%, and Dave's not here tonight, what his standard is for the yellow area from the corner of the curb. I think in some areas it may extend it, so it may end up, not sure if we're gonna have to move the signs or just simply paint a little bit further with this. But it will help sort of codify that particular situation. And it may eliminate a few parking spaces in the long run, but we'll work it out.
Would that allow the painting to extend like out onto the, instead of just the curb, out onto the street, like, stripes onto the street? Just to kind of, so people, I guess would see it a little bit, be a little bit more, prominent, stands out a little bit more than just a yellow stripe, being able to extend that, that lot, or that triangle out into the street to be able to, extend that.
Yeah, I'd have to defer to David on that, just because I would assume there's some costs involved and maybe some unforeseen challenges with it, but we'll ask and have him speak to that maybe at a future meeting.
I have a question, and you can say not relevant, could be your answer. So on the cottage type, they're individually owned lots, but that center lot, is that treated like a condo association, that they all maintain that open space?
I think it generally is.
Okay, thank you.
Not relevant.
It's totally relevant, as it turns out.
Say that.
Any other questions for staff before I open or close public hearing and open up for preliminary council discussion? Okay, then I will close the public hearing and open things up for preliminary council discussion. Who would like to begin?
Do a motion?
You can, that can also be a opener for a discussion.
I think that I'm kind of struggling with the sidewalk fee in lieu, only because our job as a city is public works and public safety. And I just feel as though sidewalk maintenance is something that should be done already. And asking for developers to pay in to it. I don't know, I just don't know. It doesn't sit right with me in a way. It feels like that is something that is the cost that the city should be taking on.
You're saying the burden on the developer as opposed to a city paying in is the concern?
And I'm not up here in favor of developers all the time or anything like that. I do think that is something that is what we should be taking care of as a city. I don't know. Those are just some thoughts, and everything else I think looks great. I just kind of wanted to have maybe discussion around that. I don't know.
Would you feel better if that developer that was paying that fee in lieu for that, if it went to the sidewalk in front of the development that they were doing, instead of just into a general pot that just went to wherever it needed to be done in the town? Or would that?
In theory, yes, but then there's also, the point of there are ones that might, the whole city needs it.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know.
I understand what you're saying, yeah. Kind of does seem like that expense should fall on more of maybe the public works fund, or instead of falling onto just the developers and not knowing if they're gonna get a nice new sidewalk in front of the nice new house they just built on the corner of whatever street they decide to build on, I guess. I understand where you come from, yeah.
So I have a question or a comment about that. So if I'm building one house, I'm building my one house, I'm not a developer, I have to put my own sidewalk in? No.
No. Generally, you would not be allowed to put in your own sidewalk. Let's say you were in the middle of a block.
Yep.
Public Works does not want people to build sidewalks to nowhere because they have to be lined up with all the rest of the sidewalk along that block. And
But
that
if
can
I'm
often-
building more than one right there, if I'm building two or
If you were-
three, I'm not a
If you were building an
developer.
entire block,
Okay,
that may be one instance, the minimum instance of when you may be required to put in the sidewalk on that block face, right? When folks are developing brand-new subdivisions,
Yes.
they're always required to build the sidewalks. And that's part of where this came out of. It's, we have these minor and even major subdivisions in the middle of town where you're not required to build a sidewalk. And yet there may be a major subdivision outside of the residential core where they have to build all the sidewalks. And, which is very typical, right, across the country. With new subdivisions, you have to put in all the infrastructure. But this is how a lot of communities do it, to kind of level the playing field, if you will, between entirely new developments and smaller subdivisions that can help pay in. And just to give you a sense of what we're talking about in real numbers, the current fee in lieu of sidewalk improvements is $110 per linear foot. So a typical, say, 50-foot wide lot in the middle of town, if you're going to be building a brand-new home or even subdividing that and putting 2 townhomes on it, they would be paying 50 times $110. So it, ends up being a little over $5,000 in fees for that particular development. So that just kind of to give you real world numbers.
that's why I was trying to see where you were coming from. Because 1 or 2, I don't have to put my own in, but I have to pay a fee, which is probably cheaper than putting my own in, I don't know. But if it's a major or minor development, that's when it comes into where they have to put their own in, the developer.
Yeah.
Yep.
I mean, whatever the applicability is for all the applicable development types. I mean, this came out of, a combination of the equity sort of discussion between the new subdivisions on new lands versus in the residential core, as well as a lot of questions about, hey, it's taken a long time to build out the sidewalks. We were promised sidewalks years ago. Well, it's all budgetarily based, right? So if you don't have the money to upkeep the sidewalks, we're not going to be able to build them, quickly. So this is one way of having development pay for itself in order to expedite the project schedule that Public Works has for new sidewalks and maintenance of sidewalks.
Okay, thank you.
Would you say a situation like on J where you have like 2 now like elementary schools on either side of it, is that kind of, the antagonist for this discussion? I mean, as far as something like that happens.
It certainly played in, right? Because that's one of these areas that's developed quickly and it had to be sort of reprioritized within the project schedule for sidewalks. And yet there's only a finite amount of money from the streets funds to be able to put towards that. So a project like this would be a little bit more nimble, would be able to actually build or maintain those sidewalks in the future. And it would only be able to be used for that purpose as well. These funds would go specifically into a sidewalk-specific fund, so it would only be used on sidewalks.
Yeah, and historically, it wasn't the city's responsibility for sidewalks, nor should it be. But the use of sidewalks has changed dramatically over the years. Now it's become an accessibility issue. It's also an issue with keeping the river clean. We wouldn't need a street sweeper maybe for just the silt, we do, but we definitely need it for the dog poop, because we don't want all that in the river. And I'm sure there are other uses for the sidewalks that I'm completely missing. But not everybody loves a sidewalk, not everybody wants a sidewalk, but if I'm in a wheelchair, I want sidewalks so I can get where I'm going. If I'm pushing a baby stroller, I want sidewalks so that the baby can actually sleep on the walk or whatever, you know. And so we need them, and we need somebody else to pay for them. We're already millions of dollars behind in deferred maintenance. So I love the plan. I love the improvements. I love the corner, the clarity on that, how that works, you know, and if we can make it a little safer for people to drive, that'd be awesome too.
Okay. And I wonder if we'd be having this discussion if like that mandatory 33% of our annual funds going towards streets, if it included sidewalks as well, maybe we wouldn't be having this conversation. Or maybe we would, I don't know. I mean, that seems like, you know,
I believe
just streets, right?
that fund, Christy might correct me if I'm wrong, but I do believe that fund does allow for work on sidewalks. The reality is the cost of that work in general has gone up exponentially over the years.
I don't think it does.
It doesn't? Okay.
I think it's just streets.
My recollection that it
but,
doesn't.
Wait, so the fund, currently the streets fund does not allow for sidewalk?
Correct, it's just for streets. It does not allow for sidewalks. So it's from the general fund that all sidewalk improvements are done through the general fund.
Could save us some time.
There's a bit of an
Thank you,
oversight.
that's really good to know.
Yeah, and I do feel like trying to ensure that connectivity is important as well, but I don't know. What does the rest of council feel on this?
I mean, it sounds like this is being driven partially by the concept of equity in sidewalk work, and not just between, oh, well, these developers should have to pay this and these developers should not have to pay this, though it sounds like that's in there, but also we're putting this revenue together from this to care for the sidewalks in parts of town that already don't have them, or they're in bad shape, but nobody's going to be building new development there because it's already built. So this provides a way for those sidewalks to get repaired or get built in the first place, that if, it kind of seems like if we're relying on general funds, it's not in the street fund, this feels a little bit like right now the only way to get funds together to do that work in the neighborhoods where people may have accessibility issues or don't have transportation. And so walking on a sidewalk for public safety and accessibility seems very important. And my understanding here is that that's the purpose of this.
And also just another small clarification is just that the sidewalk fee in lieu already does exist and something that has been voted on approved. This is more just to clarify exactly when it applies so that we can apply it, more equally and as intended.
And it came into existence with this new rewrite, like the land use code, or was it in
No,
it?
we've had it before that, primarily with subdivisions of a certain size. And, I think it's been, and really it's been under the discretion of Public Works when to apply it and when not to. And that was part of the confusion. It just, staff wasn't even sure when we were really required to apply it. So we discussed it and thought we had fixed it within the most recent approval of the land use code, realized afterwards that it still was not quite clear enough. And that's why we're coming back with this language.
So we've been collecting these funds then?
Yes, but very infrequently. This would increase the frequency by which we would collect these funds.
And we can fix some of the trippers.
Yeah, I'm all about, bringing in money for repairing the sidewalks, because I've sat downtown multiple times at my wife's office and watched people trip over multiple ledges from sidewalks being uneven and from roots growing up and pushing them up. So, I'm good with the way it's written now.
I would offer a motion.
Okay.
I move to approve ordinance 2026-21, approving amendments to Chapter 16 Land Use Code.
Second.
All right, I have a motion by Councilmember Pappenfort, seconded by Councilmember Schreiner, and that is to approve ordinance 2026-21, approving amendments to Chapter 16 Land Use Code. Any further deliberation? Okay, roll call.
Stevens,
Yes.
Ravinsky,
Yes.
Pappenfort,
Yes.
Schreiner,
Yes.
Fontana,
Yes.
Martin.
Yes.
Motion passed.
Okay, we move on to new business.
Nice work, Corey, by the way.
Oh, yeah, thanks, guys, for that. Let's see. Chaffee Housing Trust fee transfer request for 8 units, deed restricted units, into Rivers Development. Hi.
Good evening. All right, tonight we have the fee transfer request from Chaffee Housing Trust for the 8 deed restricted units in the Two Rivers development. According to the policy adopted earlier this year, this is requiring a financial analysis, so that is included in the back. And the requested fee transfer is totaling $63,435.85. And this is including $3,000 in building permit fees and $60,000 in system development fees. And with the housing fund that's being the designated source for reimbursing these waived fees, based on updated projections, the ending fund balance is projected to be about $88,000. And apologies, a little nervous for my first time, guys.
You're doing great.
With the $60,000 in system development fees, the enterprise fund is required to be kept whole, so those would need to be reimbursed to the water and wastewater funds, and the planning and zoning fees are not subject to the same requirements. And if you want to go to the budget, these projections have been updated based on current numbers where we've actualized at, and updated projections on projects. We've had additional supplemental funding for the Strong Communities grant and added in additional expenditures related to that as well. And just notating that those land proceeds, that $1 million, will not be actualized this year, more than likely, but those interviews are in process. And yeah, any questions? I gave you numbers. What questions can I answer?
Questions?
I'm always curious about what other things are going to be tapping this. You know, is $88,000 enough to leave in the fund?
That's hard to say. I mean, these are all estimates, and so it just...
crystal ball.
It just depends on the timing of everything. I mean, in this projection, it was noted earlier this year when the flour mill came up that some of the $375,000 may fall into next year, and so we may not see all of this hit this year. But there's been discussion of, maintaining a certain level in this fund, so it's just hard to say.
Any other questions of Taylor right now?
I do.
Okay, yep.
So when we discussed in your CAF here, it shows that the second paragraph there, where it says the policy does not replace or waive the city's adopted fee schedules, and then it goes on to talk about the estimated savings just with the 40%.
Yes.
So we're going to give them a 40% reduction off the top because they have said we are affordable housing. So right off the top, that equals $85,000.
That's correct. Yes.
Okay, so now that that comes out of where does that come from? That just is a discount?
It's just the discount, correct. So it's
Okay.
not coming from anywhere that's not being transferred from anywhere. That's just the discount applied to those units.
Okay, so then the rest of this would be the 63,000 actually does come from a fund, correct?
Correct, and that would be up to your decision and direction, but 60,424 of that would need to be reimbursed to the water and wastewater funds, and the 3,000 to the general fund for the planning and zoning fees.
Okay, so that comes to a total of
63,435.
148,780,785
For,
the entire project.
if you account in the savings, yes.
Right, so if they realize a savings of 40% off the top, and then we take this, these fee transfers that the city has to pay, it is a transfer, it's a direct money out of this account going to the other enterprise funds, which does pay for other things. It pays for improvements, pays for projects, wastewater, and the water, correct? I mean, we all took a tour of that, and they are in some serious need of deferred maintenance and more projects, so that has to be kept whole.
Yes.
So the total comes to 148,780, 785 for one project that the city would be invested in affordable housing for this.
She's adding together the fee.
Essentially, but that's, I mean, we're not,
Yes.
the 85,000, the city's not paying that, so that is just a discount, a realized discount there. But, I
Right.
mean.
I also think that discount, I think if we look at it as an incentive, it's different because we're trying to encourage people to, or developers to build something that our community members can hopefully afford to live in. Discount makes it seem like it just, it doesn't have the same tone, I believe, as incentive. We're wanting to encourage this development to happen.
It's an investment. I understand that. The city is showing we are investing in this project by realizing a 40%, what you're calling an incentive.
For housing that is needed, as was discussed last night.
Right. Nope, I'm not saying.
So what Councilmember Fontana is saying is just the value, like really, and I wanted to shed more light on like the true value of what we are putting it, what has already been put into the project as of tonight's conversation, correct? I mean,
Correct.
it's not.
That's what I'm trying to say, is the city is if we decide to approve this, this is a realization of an investment into this project of $148,000, $148,780,785 by the city.
Yeah,
I mean,
that's good to just establish and know that is really the actual value overall after everything would be said and done.
Right, so some of the other projects, Taylor, that you had mentioned would be South Arc Infrastructure could take out of this pot, as Councilman Papenfort said. First and D Street, Senior LIHTC, future affordable housing developments, and other things that are drawing from this, that we slowed down the flour mill on, drawing the entire amount. I mean, there's other projects coming forward.
First and D and the Senior LIHTC project is not to even be thought of for this year. There's nothing coming out of our fund for this year for those two projects.
But they are in our future projects. And this pot, as we discussed in other business, was that this pot is also used for leveraging. This is used for grants. This is used for matching grants. We have to build on this to be able to use for other projects. Isn't that the way this fund works? Instead of taking this and running it dry, putting it all into one, it's used for matching grants for other projects and such.
I feel like we've talked about this like
Endlessly.
acres of times.
Yeah.
And I think the thing that has consistently come out of those conversations is that we do not have articulated and mutually agreed upon priorities of how we are going to use this fund. So yes, I think to your point, yes, it is used for that. It is used for fee transfers. It is used for all these things. And so we haven't, as a group, done the work of identifying what the values are and what the priorities are that will give us the direction to make the decision that I think you're looking for right now. We haven't done that work.
Nope.
So, I mean, it is used for all those things. And so I guess the takeaway of my comment would be, I'd love to see us do that work at some point so that we don't have to continue having this conversation every time somebody needs this money. Because it always seems like the conversation comes back to, well, but we want to do this with this fund, but we want to do that with this fund. And we have this conversation every time. And still we don't do the thing that we need to do so that we can give people like Reed appropriate expectations of how to approach us to access these funds, because we haven't given that direction to the people who use them, much less ourselves about how to make the decision.
And to be fair, I think it's hard to, any given moment, we could either be on the precipice of a grant. I don't think that there is one on the horizon for First and D. I mean, considering that went stale. So I think it's hard because, like, right now, council might decide, yeah, the units that could be built now makes more sense than holding out for a future project, again, like the senior assisted living that the LIHTC didn't come through this year. It may not come through next year. I mean, when we're being told of expanded timelines for those things, it does make it difficult to have this like across the board approach when you have to kind of gauge the current situation and see what grants are on the horizon and how far out are they, and then what's the potential for those funds to be recouped in that time. So
I mean, it's always going to be hard. That
Yeah.
will always be true at any given moment on any fund that we're trying to administer. That's the point of having a set of criteria. I mean, it's not like you check this, I mean, it's a way to like articulate among ourselves how we are going to weigh this factor versus, this factor versus this factor. So yes, there might be these grants. What's our level of confidence on that grant? If it's 25% and we're not going to find out until November 15th, but we have an 80% on this and it's happening now. I mean, we don't have any kind of guidance for any of that.
Well, yeah, and I think just like that case-by-case feeling that we have, it feels kind of inevitable because of that, because we do find ourselves where it's like, wow, 2 major projects just had a huge delay.
Right.
So maybe we do find ourselves in a place where prioritizing units that can happen now makes more sense. I don't know if there's a way around like this feeling of like having to be reactionary and gauge where we're at currently right now.
I think it's,
Yeah.
I mean, there's a way around it. We say, these are the factors that we consider when we make this decision. So that then when there's a decision in front of us, we look at our list and we say, okay, we're a 5 on this criteria, but a 3 on this one. And I mean, I'm not saying we have like this hard and fast algorithm. I'm saying maybe we should articulate what the goals of this fund are so that we can at least have some kind of a guided conversation about it.
So I do believe that we do have some policy that does help guide us, and that is to use these funds for projects that are 50% of the units to be affordable, and we're being presented tonight with 100% of the units being affordable. So there is some guidance a little bit. I do hear you, Councilmember Schreiner, and I do agree that it would be helpful to have an agreed upon prioritization amongst us, and so I just want to say that. And I do want to also add, so the Housing Trust has invested $1.6 million into this project. The 148,000, give or take, is about 10% of that. So we'd be investing and helping them out, like 10% of what they've already invested in to find housing, permanent housing home ownership opportunities for our constituents. And as we learned last night, 54% of our constituents have said in Chaffee County that the cost of the mortgage is a big setback for them. My house, through the Housing Trust, my mortgage, I pay $1,071 a month. That is less than what a lot of people pay in rent.
Yeah, it is.
The second biggest barrier, I believe, is 51% of them voiced that it was the down payment and needing assistance with that. My down payment was $4,500. This program is for our community, and it helps our community members become homeowners. I mean, I didn't know I wanted to be a homeowner, but I knew that this was how I could get stable housing here. I no longer have to move and move and move. This is how I can do it, and I can do it affordably.
Yeah, and I agree with both of you talking about having some standards, and one of them needs to be timing. And I feel like we're in a unique opportunity where projects have been delayed, and that gives us the ability to fund this. We may not be able to every time. We didn't give them a penny last time. They have a much bigger investment in this than we do, and so I hope that we move forward and approve this tonight.
And I guess if the criteria, I mean, if, one criteria to consider is also, there would still be money in the fund. We're not zeroing it, right?
Correct.
There would
Take
be
it to about
20
24,000.
88 left.
Thank you. So, I mean, that's a thing to consider too. It's not a complete, we've made
It's not a total
decisions on
drain.
this on previous things where we didn't do it because it was going to zero out the fund and we didn't want to do that.
Right.
And these are rough projections, so
Right.
take that into consideration.
Based on the best information that we have available.
I agree that we need a little better idea of how we're making these decisions, and it'd be great to work on that at some point. Not having that at the moment, I'm forced to recollect our last time through this, and I remember it turned into a good old-fashioned negotiation, and two of us started at zero. One of us started somewhere in the middle, and two of us were at 100%. And so I'm starting at 100%, and if it's going to go that direction again, I'm willing to have that negotiation.
And I am not at the place where I'm saying I'm not in support of this. I am saying I am not in support of funding this entire project for this. I do think we are up here to say we are in support of affordable housing, and we should show that we are. But investing in one project at this amount of money is a lot to invest in. If we look back on the flour mill, which we just approved, it was around a 50-50. We approved that, we cut what they asked for in half, and we said we are willing to put up $70-odd thousand. They were asking for $141,000, and that's what we approved, because it wasn't fully funding one project for one nonprofit. And I guess Flour Mill is a nonprofit. They're partly nonprofit profit. But this is a nonprofit. So instead of fully funding, as we've done in the past, we cut it to 50%. That's what I'm willing to say. Let's go to 50% to say the cost sharing of this. So we request the transfer of $31,000 is the 50-50. And that should include the transfer fee for the water and the wastewater is what I would like to propose.
Councilmember Fontana, I'm curious, because you said that, we can say that we support affordable housing and we can show that. How do you propose that we demonstrate and show that we support affordable housing?
Just as we've done, we've passed the AMI charts. We lowered that this year.
We have to accept the AMI charts.
We don't have to. I suppose we could say no, but we approved it. We approved what the state, what is it that's passed down with the name of the company?
It's HUD and Chaffee who give us these numbers, and we have to approve them in order to receive any grant funding. So it's not really an option.
Okay, so
how do we demonstrate and show that we support affordable housing as a city?
Okay, do you want me to answer that?
I do.
Okay, so we passed the AMI charts. We have done that as a council. We have reports from the CHA. We have some representative on the CHA. We do give to nonprofits such as this. We gave to the flour mill. We gave to the project before that. We invested in First and D. We are collecting STRs to go directly as a tax passed on to our consumers, to our tourists who are coming here. $15 per room per night to go directly into the Affordable Housing Fund. We are passing those taxes on to the tourists that are coming into this community. Do you want me to keep going? Or
Sure.
We are showing that we are in support of affordable housing. And so by saying I am in support of affordable housing at 50%, it's not saying that I'm not in support of affordable housing.
I just wanted to know your thoughts on it. Thank you.
I mean.
Claire, this might be an
yeah.
inappropriate, I'm sorry, Aaron, I didn't mean to, go ahead.
I mean, we're all up here talking about affordable housing. We all, you know, I think we're on the same page. We all want to see affordable housing come to, you know, come about. But, you know, to what cost are we, you know, is this going to, you know, cost us? We have, you know, like I say, these numbers are not definite numbers that we're working with right now. These numbers, you know, they're still up in the air. We have commitments that are of projects that are being built right now that rely on these funds. So we got to keep that in mind. I mean, South Arc infrastructure right now is, you know, well into its phases, even beyond, you know, what we thought, what we predicted. There's change orders coming left and right out there. We've put more money in there than what we thought we were going to have to do. So I mean, that's kind of scary to, you know, that we've committed to these bigger projects, and then we're always getting hit from the side by these, you know, these other projects that, you know, that keep coming in and ask us to, you know, for the money that should be for them. This is what the money is for. Like you said, you know, like we've done many things to, you know, to build these funds, which is, you know, STRs right there, which I think we could do more with that if we just open that up a little bit more. But you know, we're all kind of, you know, we all know where we sit on STRs, right? So, but yeah, just going forward and with these numbers that we're not exactly sure if when they're gonna be replenished, and with the projects that we have online right now and being built, it's a hard decision to make. And so, I mean, I'd love to be able to go 100%, but I'm definitely in favor of a little bit of bargaining. You know, can maybe, you know, find a middle ground and give them as much as we can, but you know, maybe not all they want.
So I think last time we gave 12K to the flour mill, if I'm not mistaken, and I think that was around 20%. Is that
That's
recollection?
Correct. That's correct, what you
Okay.
did.
So one thing, I mean, at that point, I think the crystal ball was a bit murkier. As I think Councilperson Martin pointed out, the First and D and the LIHTC project are, for the rest of the year, we're pretty certain that that's not going to have anything come to us. The flour mill already came to us. The South Arc infrastructure, I don't believe is going to be coming this year for anything. And if they do, it's going to be more than 5 digits. So I don't think that should factor in either. So to me, the crystal ball gets a lot clearer than it did last time. And I feel like we know, and as far as these numbers haven't come out yet, I mean, we know it's going to be either between 55 and 88. So we do have a range there. And they are asking for 63 something. So to me, that's why I feel like this time I have a much stronger stance in the negotiation. And I do feel like because we know those 4 things are most likely not going to come forward. And also I understand the philosophical difference that we have, that you don't want to see it go to 0.
I do not.
And I understand that.
Being fiscally responsible, I do not want that number to go to 0, and I don't want to invest all of our funds in one project I just don't like a zero balance
Right,
on there.
and I
mean,
get that.
Starting from zero.
And I understand why, because it's sort of, I don't think of it as a bank account that needs to hold a balance. To me, it is a fund that gets used for X, Y, Z. And so if it goes to zero and all the funds are happy for that year, then it was perfectly used. That's just my philosophy on it, and I think both are valid. So I'm going to respect that you don't want it to go to zero. However, I think if they're asking for 63 something and we feel stronger in this conversation that we're not going to get asked for our kind of 4 big projects, I'm more comfortable getting that 100%, or at least closer to it. I know we went with 20 the last time. I thought that was low, part of the negotiation, and it was murkier, but this time I think, I do feel strongly that 100% here is the right choice, but. Because
I'd
it's
like to
still, we
offer a
would still have what, 25? If, for the higher number, we would still have about 25 left in there. And
So this might be an inappropriate question for me to ask you, and if that's the case, you can just say that. Is there?
You want to ask me since this is her first meeting?
I think we've established that you could say whatever you want to us and we won't get too mad, so.
To Councilmember Rovinski's point of like, is there a number, that we can arrive at? I mean, does something stick out for you in your professional opinion, looking at that's like, well, here's this one thing that could be an option? Like I said, if you're like, no, ma'am, I'm not going to tell you that, you can just say, I'm not going to say anything.
Feel free to.
Just tell me to hush, it's fine.
No, I'll point out that of the flour mill incentives, I think 50,000 of that has been used. Is that right, Bill? It was like 50-ish. So you will see that.
Right now, he's going, for all those watching at home. Yeah, it was 50,000 is what he said.
We will see that expense this year. But from my understanding, a lot of that we will see in the next year or so. So, I mean, I don't know how best to answer for you, but there are, this is a projection. Right. It's hard to say where it will all fall. Our licenses have come in a little bit above budget. Our interest revenue is looking well this year, so there's a few positive aspects there, but.
So if those do get realized, or something comes in on that, and that goes, if we spend this money.
Yes.
And some of those other things come in, where does that money come from?
I mean, best case scenario, if everything's spent and everything goes how it should be, we'll have the estimated 88,000 by the end of the year for the fund balance. So that's my mentioning that those could go into the next year. That is just, we will still see that expense hit. It just won't be in this year. So there will be a little bit of extra fund balance there at the bottom versus not.
Mr. Mayor, would it be appropriate to ask for Reed to come up from the Housing Trust?
Suppose if the council felt like any kind of light that Reed would glean right now would be really helpful, I would be open to that. If of course, if Reed is open to that.
Yeah, if you're willing, absolutely.
Sure.
Reed McCullough with the Chaffee Housing Trust. I think it's worth looking back at how we got here and why we created the fund. And back when we were talking a lot about affordable housing 10 years ago and trying to get the ball rolling, the city was very adamant about not wanting to be in the affordable housing business, to not wanting to be in the development business, to put that on other entities to take responsibility for that, not only because of the cost of staff and all that, but to de-risk the city. So the Chaffee Housing Trust steps in, we hire the staff, we take the risk, we incur the cost, and we bring the development to bear. And I think we've got a pretty good track record on doing that. This is a $4.3 million project. We've raised $1.6 million in funds to pay for this. And one of the last things we're doing is somewhat in reverse to say, okay, we've raised all this money. We're still trying to keep costs down. We need participation from the city. And we're asking for the $63,000, which is 1.47% of the total project cost, 1.5%. So the city's getting 8 units for a very small price tag and 0 risk. So I think it's a fair ask. And this fund was created specifically to do these kinds of things. So if the money's there, why not use it? The big thing in the end is someone has to pay for the affordable housing. We've done everything we can on our end, and we're asking for that reciprocation. So it seems like an appropriate ask. And this is not just money out of the pocket. You're using your funds to pay your staff to make housing happen. And so you're not giving away the money. You're just reducing the cost from us to having to pay for that, but it's part of city staff. So I think it's also a way of looking at it. The other funds that you talked about, those are incentives to make affordable housing happen. They're not a cost to the city, unless you're saying the city didn't get those tap fees because we chose to offer this incentive. So the numbers don't quite flesh out and straight up math. It's just coming down to the question, who's paying for affordable housing, who's taking the risk, and how is it getting done?
Thanks, Reed.
Thank you.
Any questions?
Thanks, Reed.
Oh, yeah.
Mr. Mayor, I would offer a motion.
Okay.
I move to approve a fee transfer in the amount of $60,424 from the Housing Fund to the Water and Wastewater Fund and $3,1185 from the Housing Fund to the General Fund.
Second.
All right, we have a motion from Councilmember Pappenfort, seconded by Councilmember Wales, and that is to Martin, sorry. To approve a fee transfer, my bad, that's my bad. Approve a fee transfer in the amount of $60,424 from the Housing Fund to the Water and Wastewater Fund and $3,011.85 from the Housing Fund to the General Fund. Any further deliberation?
Rovinsky,
Yes.
Stevens,
Yes.
Shriner,
Yes.
Pappenfort,
Yes.
Martin,
Yes.
Fontana.
No.
Motion passed.
Okay, we move on to Resolution 2026-23, a resolution of the City Council of the City of Salida, Colorado, approving citizen appointments to the Planning Commission pursuant to Section 2-7-10 of the Salida Municipal Code.
Good evening. Never know where to put this thing. All right, so yeah, we're here tonight to talk about new citizen appointments to the Planning Commission. So as we know, Planning Commission is made up of 7 regular members and 2 alternate members. Currently, we have 5 regular positions filled and 1 alternate position filled. So we have 2 vacancies within our regular membership and 1 vacancy in the alternate position, which expired in February, and we decided not to fill at that time. And so one other thing to mention is that Don Reimer filled an early vacated seat, and his seat is also expired, I think, just yesterday or recently. So we did put out advertisement for Planning Commission, and it ran for, I think, like a month and a half. We even extended the deadline, and we got some really compelling applications and resumes for that. And it was really exciting to see. We were fortunate to have a really good round of candidates this time. And so we received 5 total applications. One of them was from our current alternate, Laura Pomeranke, who was interested in filling a regular membership seat, and 4 citizen applications as well. So the selection committee was Mr. Mayor Justin Critelli, and then our Planning Commission Chair Francie Bomer, Planning Commissioner Kenny Layton, and myself. And the CAF kind of outlines the current seats, what's been vacated, what's been kind of expired, what's happening recently. And after the committee interviewed all of the applicants who came in, we decided to recommend appointment of Laura Pomeranke to one of the regular membership chairs, one of the regular membership seats. Yelena Annen as one of the other regular membership seats, and then 2 of our new folks, Hank Jenkins and Jeff Gwaltney, into our alternate positions, and then also reappointing Don. And we have 4-year memberships that roll, so each time someone is to be reappointed, it goes for 4 years. Alternates, we've been doing at a 2-year kind of running time period the last few times we've brought on new alternates. So we have the motion here, which kind of goes through what the committee has proposed to council, and I'm happy to answer any questions.
And before any questions, I will say, having sat in a lot of these types of interview processes, that this one in particular, I think was the first time that we had more amazing applicants than space to put them in. So we actually had to turn away an applicant that was also stellar. So that was I hope it's a good trend to come where there'll be more stellar applicants than there are spots, and we'll have to, choose from there. It was a really hard decision.
I don't have any questions, Mr. Mayor, but I want to say thank you to all the applicants, because it's much more pleasurable to have good, solid candidates that make sure, it's still a hard decision if you've got to cut somebody, but that's better than none of y'all know anything, but I still got to pick somebody, so thanks for applying.
And they do a lot of work. So I appreciate their time and their commitment and the service to the community.
I move.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. I move to approve Resolution 2026-23, a resolution of the City Council for the City of Salida, Colorado, approving the following appointments to the Planning Commission. Reappoint Don Reimer as a regular member, term to expire August 18th, 2030. Appoint Laura Pomeranke as a regular member, term to expire January 1st, 2027, and filling the early resignation of Sarah Walsh. Appoint Yelena Anand as a regular member, term to expire June 4th, 2028, and filling the early resignation of Greg Fillet. Appoint Hank Jenkins as an alternate member, term to expire August 18th, 2028. And to appoint Jeff Watney as an alternate member, term to expire February 17th, 2028, and filling the vacancy left by Laura Pomeranke.
Second.
Right, I have a motion by Councilmember Martin and seconded by Councilmember Pappenfort. That is to approve Resolution 2026-23, a resolution of the City Council for the City of Salida, Colorado, approving the following appointments to the Planning Commission, reappointing Don Reimer as a regular member, term to expire August 18th, 2030. Appoint Laura Pomeranke as a regular member, term to expire January 1st, 2027, filling the early resignation of Sarah Walsh. Appointing Yelena Onan as a regular member, term to expire June 4th, 2028, filling the early resignation of Greg Fillet. Appoint Hank Jenkins as an alternate member, term to expire August 18th, 2028. And to appoint Jeff Waltney as an alternate member, term to expire February 17th, 2028, filling the vacancy left by Laura Pomeranke. Any further discussion there?
Pappenfort,
Yes.
Schreiner,
Yes.
Rovinsky,
Yes.
Martin,
Yes.
Stevens,
Yes.
Montana.
Yes.
Motion passed.
Right, we move on to Resolution 2026-24, a resolution of the City Council of the City of Salida, Colorado, approving citizen appointments to the Sustainability Committee pursuant to Section 2-18-10 of the Salida Municipal Code.
Good evening, Council. I'm also happy to say that we got some amazing candidates for the Sustainability Committee. We had 4 applicants, and honestly, it was a really hard choice. But we narrowed down on 2 candidates that we have before you guys tonight. Sonia Stevens, who you actually met. She was part of the Western grad students who did the report on recycling and waste hauler licensing in our area. Luckily enough, she also lives here and is excited to continue the work. And then Mr. Craig Nielsen. So I will open it up to you guys for any questions.
That's awesome. Any questions or comments?
Yep. I was say, Mr. Mayor and I did actually run into Sonia at a Dark Sky event recently, which was really cool.
She also works for Garna, so she's very invested in this.
She spells her last
Craig
name right.
is too. He hasn't had the pleasure of being in front of council yet.
She's in. She spells her last name right, so.
That's good. Yeah, right. That's good.
I move to approve Resolution 2026-24, a resolution of the City Council of the City of Salida, Colorado, approving citizen appointments to the Sustainability Committee pursuant to Section 2-18-10 of the Salida Municipal Code. We hereby appoint Sonia Stevens as a 2-year member of the Salida Sustainability Committee, term to expire September 1st, 2028. We also hereby appoint Craig Nielsen as a 2-year member of the Salida Sustainability Committee, term to expire September 1st, 2028.
Second.
All right, we got a motion by Councilmember Martin, seconded by Councilmember Stevens, to approve Resolution 2026-24, a resolution of the City Council of the City of Salida, Colorado, approving citizen appointments to the Sustainability Committee pursuant to Section 2-18-10 of the Salida Municipal Code, appointing Sonia Stevens as a 2-year member of the Salida Sustainability Committee, term to expire September 1st, 2028, and appointing Craig Nielsen as a 2-year member of the Salida Sustainability Committee, term to expire September 1st, 2028. Any further discussion?
Schreiner,
Yes.
Rovinsky,
Yes.
Stevens,
Yes.
Happenfort,
Yes.
Fontana,
Yes.
Martin,
Yes.
motion passed.
Okay, and then we move on to ordinance 2026-23, an ordinance of the City of Salida, Colorado, amending Chapter 18 of the Salida Municipal Code by amending the adoption by reference of the 2021 International Energy Conservation Code amendments. And this is to approve the first reading and to set a second reading and public hearing for September 15th, 2026. And I guess I'll let Councilmember Fontana take it away.
Sure. I don't want to have you.
Oh, well,
I know you got to take
I'm gonna
some notes.
take notes, don't worry.
Yep. Trying not to make that a big thing every time.
Oh, it's okay.
But in this case, so with this ordinance 2623, or number 26-2026-01 from the County Commissioners, if you look at the history of this ordinance, it was, in Buena Vista, it was voted down 5-0 a couple weeks ago by their Board of Trustees. And it was also voted down in Poncha Springs by them saying, we don't want this. We don't want this to be voted on. We don't want a rolling adoption of this amendment for this electric preferred. So what I'm asking is this just to be denied on the first reading. Because of the history of Buena Vista in our community and Poncha Springs in our community. I'm not sure how that works, but I'm asking it to be denied on first reading.
Okay, was there any other comment from council on this that they wanted to bring up now?
Change is hard for people, and we know from the greenhouse gas emissions testing that buildings are the biggest contributor to greenhouse gases, and it would be irresponsible for us to say, people want to live in 1950, so let's let them pretend like they are. I think we need to move forward and adopt this.
Okay.
I thought it was.
Can you just scroll down so I can see the part where it says recommendation?
Staff recommends council
Thank you.
approve.
I don't think it's just about change. I think it's about, I can go into what I feel like it's all about. I read the CAF. I understand what is on here. I'm sure as all of you did. It goes into what it recommends. It goes into what the ordinance, it goes into the whereas. And for this, it is not a good fit for the city of Salida. Buena Vista, as I said, voted it down 5-0. It was the same ordinance. Is that correct?
I don't know. I don't know what BV. I assume it's the same amendment.
The same amendment.
I assume as much, yeah.
and they have voted it down, and Poncha Springs said that they are going to not replace any of the adoption of the ordinances. They are saying we will not automatically adopt these amendments written by Chaffee County as far as this goes. So I don't understand why we would automatically adopt these. I think it needs more time to go back. I think it needs to understand, there's a lot of places that it needs. It needs to talk about housing affordability. It needs to talk about increased costs. It needs to talk about consumer choice, electric versus gas, and increased cost of housing, where it doesn't say that there is increased cost of housing, and that is just passed on to the developer or the builder. But it's not, it's passed on to the end user.
I believe when the commissioners were discussing this amendment and everything, I want to say it was Commissioner Lucrezi who expressed similar concerns. And I don't know if she voted no, but I do know that it did pass. So it was either 2-1 or all three of them voted yes. But, and to me, that does say something, that, even our commissioners weren't in complete agreement about this. I am curious, because I think it's in here about how, like, the county is who we get our building permits from and everything. So what do the impacts look like if this were to be denied? How does that, what are the impacts, I guess?
You just make the county's building department a little more annoyed at us because it would make their job more complicated because they'd have to apply two standards. I'm sorry, Christy.
I think we actually might need to get a legal opinion on that. We have an IGA with Chaffee County that says that we will adopt their building code amendments within 90 days of them adopting them. So I don't think it's, and I'm not going to speak to why Buena Vista and Poncha Springs did it. I'm not an attorney and I don't work for those communities, but our IGA with them says that we will adopt their building code amendments within 90 days. So we can, if no one makes a motion to move this forward and for the second reading and public hearing and it dies, so be it. You can move this forward for second reading and public hearing for September 15th, and we can come forward with that legal response for you all. At the public hearing, when the council would hear from the public and any other interested parties and deliberate, at that time there could be amendments made. You could also table it at September 15th after you hear from everyone and not vote on it then. So I think that there are options, but I think it's important for us to understand the legal agreement that we have with Chaffee County at this time.
I wonder if you can bring that back, if it does die tonight, if you can bring that information back in one complete CAF for us.
I would like full direction on what questions the council doesn't believe that are being responded to in this way, in what you have before you, so that I'm not guessing at what kind of information the entire council is looking for.
The understanding of why the trustees voted 5-0 to.
I mean, it's
yes.
a different community.
Okay,
that-
also, I do want to, just for the record, okay, this is the first time that we haven't had legal representation at one of our meetings. As I don't know if there's a camera can pan over to the empty seat, but this is the first time I think ever that we haven't had legal representation also sitting here. So
Okay, so
just for the record.
So I feel like, I just want to make sure I'm understanding. I'm not prepared to just say we shouldn't do this because these other two communities didn't do it. So if we do the second reading, that's when we can ask all of the questions that that Councilmember Fontana has, right? Like, how does this impact affordability for people? How does it impact the building department? That's an opportunity for us to ask those questions and get that information. Am I interpreting this correctly?
But when we get that packet, so the next time we're going to get this exact same packet, we're going to get that information and we'll be asked to decide that at that time. Sometimes it takes more than reading it one time to understand what the information is, especially in something this so complicated, especially in something where it can affect housing prices. It can affect if you're putting in gas and electric to that end user. Consumer choice is a huge thing. So I don't want to.
And it can be, I just want you to know, it can be tabled also. That is like the third, you could kill it, you can approve it, or you can table it to consider and have that time.
So we table it, then we still get the information at the night of the council meeting? Is what I'm trying to avoid.
No, it would be at this public hearing. At this public hearing, you can do that. Nothing, again, all this is just setting a public hearing. This isn't approving anything. And that's why I'm taking notes, so that when the public that expect this to be discussed at that date are here, then they can be privy to all of that rationale. And then, so nothing to the affirmative is happening here other than setting that date.
And so I think too, if I am understanding Christy correctly, if we want to have more information, we just need to make sure we're clear in what that information is, so that when they present it to us on the night of September 15th, we can table it then. We get the information, we can table it if we want to, or we pass it or it dies, whatever. But from what I'm hearing, sounds like how does this impact housing costs? And so I know that Sarah Law has, presented us information before about the impacts or lack thereof of these types of policies going into place. So maybe, Sarah, if you could have I don't know what you're asking for, Councilmember Fontana, but if we can just make sure we're clear with our direction to staff, so that we can have the information that we feel like we need, and then again, we can on the night of the 15th decide, pass, vote it down, or table it. So yeah, I don't know if you want to speak to what other information you're looking for.
Do you want to talk before I talk again?
No, go for it.
Do you want to say something?
I just want to say, we, kind of, I guess the big issue for me is, finding out the financial aspects of going electric preferred. How much more does it cost to, because of course it's going to cost more to be able to put both in as you build. It might, that's going to be, a pretty big pill to swallow for people already feel like they're, we sit up here and we preach affordability all the time, and building affordable and making sure people can afford to live here, and and this is not that route, I don't think, right now. Maybe, definitely not up front. I think down the line, it might be something that you're gonna 10, 20 years down the line, might be happy that you put this in. But right now, telling people what they can and can't do with their hard-earned money and how they want to build their house, hopefully their dream house here in the valley. But just knowing that financial burden that we're going to be putting on a place that's already too expensive to move to and build and live is my biggest concern.
I imagine that the argument against unleaded gas sounded a lot like this. And so it's just something that we need to do. We already know that it costs less to only put electricity in the house. If you have to also put gas, we know that costs more. We already know that.
But
so I'm not sure what the questions are that need to be answered.
You only put gas, does that cost less than if you put both? Of course it does.
Gas is like the lead in the, it's like the lead in the gasoline. It's a poison, it's an explosive, it's piped into your home.
I only buy
and
diesel.
we are saying we don't want it in the homes. And this is how change occurs over time. We used to just throw all the pollution into the river. We don't just keep doing things the way that we did them before.
And this
when
is-
we learn there's a better way, we do it that way.
This
So
is-
I'd like to see us pass the motion.
It's also not requiring that.
Okay. This is really great debate. This is really awesome, and it would be really great to have this debate in the public hearing,
Yes.
which is all this is do we want to set this as a public hearing? And I haven't heard a single point raised as to why that would be a bad thing to just have this discussion happen in the public hearing when people can be privy to this discussion because we set the date.
And
That's
Mr.
all
Mayor,
this is.
I
That's
would
all
love
this
to
is.
offer that motion.
Okay, well, good.
Sorry.
I mean, I can keep taking feverish notes. I really can, but it's like, it's,
I just want to make sure that, like, staff has clear direction on what, I mean, and I as far as like why the other communities chose what they did, I think that is on us to do the research, to see, talk to the trustees ourselves or read the articles that the news has put out. But I think as of right now, it sounds like we are asking for Christy to give direction for Sarah Law to give us information on the finances. Is that's correct?
The biggest concern is the added additional electrical infrastructure. The consumer choice would be my next, and then I did do the research on those other communities. I read those articles. I actually went back and looked at those tapes of those, I guess they're not tapes, dating myself. YouTube.
Were they VHS? Okay.
They were DVD. Anyway, so I did that research, and I know those reasons. So that's why I said I want to just say, no, deny this on the first reading because of that. Because I wanted to dive into this in this case. And I did, and I feel like this should be denied on a first reading.
It sounds like Councilmember Fontana doesn't have any questions. She has all the answers. And I would like to move to pass this ordinance 2026-23 for a second reading and public hearing on September 15th, 2026.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion by Councilmember Pappenfort, seconded by Councilmember Schreiner, and that is to approve ordinance 2026-23 on first reading and set the second reading and public hearing for September 15th, 2026. Any further discussion? Do I need to write down? Okay.
Martin?
Yes.
Stevens?
No.
Rovinsky?
Yes.
Schreiner?
Yes.
Pappenfort?
Yes.
Fontana?
No.
Motion passed.
Okay, just for further notes, hold on. Okay, great. Moving on to council reports. Councilmember Stevens.
Yeah, I just wanted to kind of touch base on the citizen comment today of the 4 citizens that came in and when I first got onto city council, this was a big issue that was right up in our face, right off the bat. And that was, I lost count. How long have I been on council now?
About 3 years.
3 years or so. Yeah, and so
Going on
I
3
felt it kind of, died down a little bit. It wasn't so prominent. It wasn't interface every meeting, the person in question, Danny Taylor, would show up to our meetings. He would make sure his presence was known. He would speak louder when we're doing, the Pledge of Allegiance than anybody. You could hear him from the back of the room. It was just kind of, he was just this in your face kind of entity, which is all, is great. I mean, but when you're spending downtown with a, fully armed assault rifle, like I say, it's not, I don't think that's the greatest form of, displaying that your presence. So, and just with the recent activity that we just had at Walmart. Just a couple days ago, a guy decided he wanted to walk into Walmart fully loaded, multiple firearms. And that is, right now, Walmart is a very triggered place, because one of our well-known and long citizens was, just 2 weeks ago, was shot down river out in front of his home. I don't know if anybody knows Steve Finch that works at Walmart. Lived here. I've known him, since I've lived here. Owns a house down across Whalesville Bridge. There, he went outside and flagged down a car that was driving way too fast up and down his road. Went out, flagged the guy down. Had a conversation with him. Conversation went south. He turned around to walk back to his house and was shot through the back, through his, very seriously injured. I think fragmented some of his hip, his bone, had bowel surgery. I think he's still in the hospital right now, recovering. He'll probably never really, it's one of those situations you probably never really recover from. So right now, I think it should be, we should be very aware of, of people just walking through our town with these weapons. So, yeah, I'm not for it. Wish that, there was some way that we could figure out, and there is. I'm sure there's ways to figure this out. Depends on how deep we want to dive into it and how much risk we want to take, because, yeah, messing with that, those rights are a slippery slope. But yeah, I want you to know that I hear you. I'm pretty sure everybody up here, everybody in this room hears the citizen comments of the business owners downtown. And please just, bear with us, and hopefully we can get through this. Oh, yeah.
Okay, thank you. And Councilmember Schreiner.
Thanks. As one of our two representatives of downtown, I want to kind of follow up on what Councilmember Stevens just said. I've had a lot of people reach out to me, constituents, but also business owners, with really big concerns about the environment that is being created on F Street with Mr. Taylor's presence there with his firearms. He is absolutely exercising his very legitimate rights. It is true. He has not broken a law. He has not done anything that is a law enforcement action. And my understanding is that we had an agreement as a city with the previous administration with Mr. Taylor about things he was going to do and his choice of where he was going to exercise these rights. And it sounds like that he is no longer upholding his end of that agreement, which is clearly not an enforceable agreement either. But it is what we came to with him in the past. And if he's not going to uphold his end of a good faith agreement that we came to, I strongly think that we need to consider a different approach. We spent a lot of energy and time talking up here about activating F Street and making a certain environment in F Street to support our local businesses and bringing attention. We closed F Street, we're doing all this work. And if we're gonna do that, I think, and we've got constituents in front of us asking us to do our job, which is represent them and explore policy options to their problems. I think we need to look into some more proactive approaches here. And I know I'm going to catch 12 kinds of hell for saying this, but I think we need to consider options like making downtown a gun-free zone. I think we need to look into all their alternatives of ways to create the kind of environment that protects the public safety and the economic vitality of our community. We talk about how we're funded only by sales tax, and I can tell you that numerous business owners, pretty much all of the business owners that have reached out to me from downtown, have expressed that this is detrimental to their business, and it's more detrimental to tourism in their view than we realize.
So, I have people who I represent, and it's my job to be up here they're asking me to do something, and it's my job to do it if they're asking. So I would like us to have a work session to discuss what some of the options to address this problem might be. I don't expect it's going to go anywhere. This problem is not going to go away. It's not going to get less unpleasant. Progress will not be made unless we show leadership and say we're going to take care of this. So I would like for us to have a work session to discuss that if one of my team members agrees that we should do that.
I support that.
Thank you. I've caused enough havoc, so I'm going to stop talking now.
All right, and moving on to Councilmember Fontana.
Sure, thank you. So a couple things. Actually, I have quite a few. That's right. Thank you to staff and participants in the Heart of the Rockies Dog Agility at Marvin Park. That is a big deal for staff. I really appreciate you putting it on. Rode my bike down there. It was amazing. And this was in July. It was amazing. It was fun to watch, dozens of participants, and it was just beautiful. I support dogs in the park, and thank you to staff and the participants. I went to my first Salida Hot Springs spin bike class also last Tuesday. It was amazing. Not that anybody should know who I am wherever I go. I'm not saying that. But nobody knew that I was on city council. And it was great. They loved, all the participants loved the pool, the coach. It was a wonderful, lively atmosphere in that pool. There were kids jumping in, and you could get splashed because you were on a bike. It was great. So it's on Tuesdays, so you'll have to miss every other if you come here. Then the next, so thank you to that. Salida Greater Recreation Area Board. Play has remained up this season despite the hot, dry weather. The Chaffee County Open is this weekend. It's from Friday to Sunday. This brings locals and travelers together. It brings in a lot of people who eat out, who stay at our hotels, who stay at our Airbnbs. It's a huge tourist-driven event. So hopefully we see, I'm not sure if they said it was sold out yet because that meeting was last week, but hopefully it is. If you still want to play in it, call the Salida Golf Club. Okay, the other thing on that, we are still cart bath only due to the dryness. Then this is something that they wanted me to quote. The limited water has had some negative effects on the course, but this is where I quote, "Our crew is doing an amazing job trying to grow turf in an air fryer." So, which they really are. It is hot. So I appreciate them doing that. They work really hard at it, as does our board up there. I would like to, I had a couple different things prepared, but I changed it as we went on. I would like to see if there's some support up here now that we have talked about that electric preferred, to have Atmos Gas come and talk to us, be invited to a work session. I know we have invited them to a work session at the Finance Committee, but that meeting won't be till after next week. Not next week, I'm sorry, the 15th. So the next Finance Committee is where they're gonna come talk. But I'm asking to support, to bring them possibly, I don't know if we can arrange it, to a work session at the beginning of September, unless that's too short of notice, to come and have them speak, to support, because I know the Finance Committee's having them come. So,
Yeah, I could support that, having them
if that,
speak on the electric preferred costs and
the electric
what it
preferred,
all would
the gas,
take.
or how that
Like
works.
that before the Finance Committee meeting is what you're?
Yep, so it would have to be the Monday. Well, I guess that's not gonna work. We
So
would
we're
get
going to
the
have a work
finance-
session on August 31st. And
Oh, yeah, that's right.
yeah,
August 31st, if that's possible.
Okay.
right now we have 3 items on the draft agenda, but
Okay. Are you still?
Yeah, I'm
first
still.
and seconding
Yeah.
of that date?
Could,
Yeah, okay.
support that.
Okay, so thank you. I talked to the Salida Community Center. They are moving forward with what they're calling the new, capital NEW, new chamber. They are going to share a board. They're going to share the building on F Street, but they are two separate nonprofits. It's the way, and maybe some people already know this, but I figured I'd put it out there. Two separate nonprofits, but the community center is inviting them in. They are working on memberships now. Dan R. is going to be the interim director. They're going to hold a meet and greet for the new chamber on October 2nd. And they're asking people to please don't forget to renew your membership because they can use all that they can get. But it'd be great to go to that on October 2nd. Let's see what I have. And they said thank you to the city for their support. So I'm sure we're supporting them in some way. I don't know if there's information being exchanged there, but they're saying thank you to the city for that. Another thing is thanks to our locals and this is my other thing. For shopping local, we still have quite a bit of summer. We still have quite a bit of F Street open. I want to make sure that we're still all using that. We're encouraging those tourists, going to our local restaurants, our stores, our gift shops, our farmers market. Tons of things out there still to do. It creates a huge community. And then the last thing is I was involved in one of those meetings with Danny Taylor when we came up to some agreements with him. And it was almost 3 years ago, so I cannot remember those agreements, but I would be glad to take that upon myself to reach back out to him and talk. And I did see Mayor Dan Shore today, and we did discuss this. So I would like to invite him if he would like to come and be a part of that. I know him and Danny Taylor are friends. And if one other council would like to join us in that, and if not, I'll take that upon myself and do that.
Sorry, are you proposing to invite Dan Shore to the meeting, to the work session?
Nope, to a meeting with Danny Taylor. I took that upon myself last time, and I met with Danny Taylor with Dan Shore when he was the mayor.
He's a Ward 3 constituent, so I'd be happy to come with you, Suzanne.
Perfect. Yeah. We'll see what we can figure out to meet with Danny Taylor. That's all.
Okay.
Rinse and repeat.
And Council Member Pappenfort.
I remember quite well what the agreement was. Danny Taylor was going to abandon downtown if Harl Casper stepped down. That's exactly what the agreement was. And he is, Danny Taylor, honor your agreement and take yourself back out to the intersection on the highway like you committed to the whole entire city that you would do. Because you're dishonoring your agreement. And I'm sure you have more pride than that. And then on housing. Housing is a complex and wicked problem. It's systemic and structural. Ending housing challenges is not a realistic goal. We must focus on opportunities. We need to celebrate our progress. Our last H&A said all the same things that this one did. But there are more options today than 5 years ago. Policies are in place that were not in place before. This provides a platform to build on. Another thing to celebrate is Collegiate Peaks Bank is now a Chaffee preferred lender, opening up new opportunities for homeownership for first-time home buyers in Chaffee. I know. It is easy to be depressed. Instead, we will let this data sink in. Then we will go back to making strategy and the housing action plans. CHA is working on a strategic plan, and we'll share it in October. I had a resident call who was concerned about security cameras, and then I heard that there are problems with Flock And so whatever security cameras that we have, they need to have strict protocols so that law enforcement is not using this information to harass their ex-wives. That's why we can't have flock. That's why we have to have something else. And we know that about law enforcement. They've always been among the most prolific domestic violence offenders. So let's see if we can have a better security than that. I told the constituent that I was on his side, and then I found out more about it. So as usual, when new information comes in, I fine-tune my position. He was curious also what happened to the neighborhood watch programs. So I would like to get some information on that from staff. Were they replaced by a different program, or did they just fall to federal budget cuts? You may not know that yet, so just if you could report back on that, we would really appreciate it. And that's what I have this evening. Thank you.
Ready. Thank you. And Councilmember Ravinsky.
I just have a quick one. I had two separate constituents come to me with a similar problem, and they're driving at night, and already we know about the turning around corners thing. We're dealing with that, but they're driving at night and they turn and there's suddenly somebody there with a dog, and it's, we're almost a dark sky city. It's very dark in a lot of our intersections, and the person either in one ran away scared even though the person stopped, and the other one, the person walked up to the car, slapped it, very upset, and made their point known that they were either embarrassed or something. You can guess it was, but it's just, if you're gonna be walking around at night, headlamp, reflectors, like anything. I like walking around at night. I like riding my electric skateboard at night, so I get it, but you protect yourself, and if somebody is also protecting you and you just get scared and embarrassed, maybe don't hit their car. And that's all I got.
Okay, thank you. And Mayor Pro Tem Martin.
I first wanted to say thank you so much to Corey and Taylor. I know you guys it was your first time presenting to us, and you guys really did do great. And I look forward to hearing you guys coming up more and giving us more presentations, and just thank you for that. One of my staff over at Sweeties, Zavy, she informed me of the fall landfill audit. So for $50 an hour, on Monday, Tuesday, Thursday, and Friday, it will be September 21st, 22nd, 24th, and 25th. They're going to ask for folks to come and sort through the landfill and the recycling. This is to help us get an audit to see what is coming in and how we are doing as a community of recycling correctly. And I don't know, I mean, Sarah could probably speak more to how the audit goes, but I do have a contact here. I don't want to share someone's phone number without their permission here. So if you are interested, again, it's $50 an hour. Some of my staff at Sweeties are like, oh my gosh, let's go. Please contact me, wales.martin@salida.elected.com. Email me, and I would be happy to forward you some information on who to contact. And then going through our department updates, I want to say congrats to the police and fire department. They both got some new employees. So Derek Tees, I don't know how to say the names, but Derek Tees for the police department and Duke Meeks for the fire department. I'm just really excited to have some new staff on. And also thank you to the fire department for going and helping those folks over in Villa Grove. And I hope that our firefighter who sustained injuries is doing okay, ? He's doing well. Okay. Thank you so much for that update. If you couldn't hear, that staff member is doing well. And then I also was curious if we had any responses to the RFQ for First and D that went out.
Yes, we received 2.
Great. Okay. That's exciting. Thank you. And that is it for me tonight. Thank you.
Yeah, and no, thank you. And just to expand on that, I'll be attending the interviews for that, which will take place on Monday, the 24th. And Bill, we're still meeting on Thursday as well, or, yeah, okay, thumbs up for that. So, yeah, all around first and D, and we have a couple of applicants, so I'll be attending that. I'll also be attending CAST in Carbondale on next Thursday and Friday. So if there's any messages that Councilmember Fontana will also be there. But yeah, any messages, anything you want me to say to them while I'm out there, and I will give back a report of everything that goes down there to this council. Let's see. Also tomorrow at 4 is going to be the transient and homeless risk meetup with members of public health, the county, and I'll be attending that as well. It'll be happening here, so if anybody from council wants to just see.
Will you say
It's, yeah, it's tomorrow at 4.
Tomorrow at 4.
Yeah, just to get updates on all the things happening to address that. And I also wanted to just also go back to and give my thanks for the housing needs assessment. That's huge. It's really just to get that number and to say, Salida, we're looking at, 636 units in 10 years. And I've got the little counter now, and I'm like 628 after tonight's meeting. I think that's how the math works. So I'm just we're just plugging away ever so slowly. But having that number is just huge. So we, it does feel like we're doing a lot of this just, shot in the dark. It's nice to have those clear numbers before us of what it is to catch up and to keep up with that need. This was just a good reminder for myself, just to reach out to some. There's still some concerned neighbors about the work being done at Walmart that's happening at night. And I guess it was established to us that was needed to be done because of danger to people if they were shopping. So they need to do that work, unfortunately, at night when people aren't there shopping. And I'll return as many of the emails concerned about that, because this isn't the first time that they've done work at night, but this one sounds like they really absolutely need to be doing that work at night, unfortunately, for the neighbors. I would also like to request that we, as a city, write up like a factual summary around the 5H project. I know it's going on the ballot. And I know there's a lot of confusion. I even get confused about how exactly we got here and all the steps. So a factual summary around that project, just so that folks know how we got to this point, because it is a bit of a saga, I think would be just good to have that in writing and written plainly, so that, it helps with that information sharing.
Thank you for asking for that.
Yeah, because I'm just like, hold on, I have to go back a little further when I'm giving the recap. So, so there's that, and that is all I have, and there isn't an attorney report for first time in a long time. So we will go straight to treasurer report.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. So first, the budget to actual report. We're somewhat unfavorable due to some accelerated spending that has occurred. In time, this should return to favorable. The sales tax report, due to the timing of the sales tax data becoming available, Director Webb had to work really aggressively to turn it around so I can be presenting the sales tax information to you here tonight. So I want to thank her for her hard work. I'd also like to mention that the sales tax and budget reports are also available on the city's website under the finance section. June city sales tax collections increased by $87,949, or a 9.1% increase as compared to June of 2025. The city's portion of Chaffee County sales tax collections increased by $23,752, or a 5.8% increase over June of 2025.
In total, sales tax receipts are 8.1% higher for June and 7.2% higher year-to-date. Actual collections are 3.2% higher than budget year-to-date. And I just wanted to give a quick heads up that the sales tax report will be delayed in September due to the timing of the sales tax data becoming available. And again, it'll be available on the city's website under the finance section when it has been completed. And then finally, I want to talk a little bit about the financial condition policy, color-coded dashboard that is being worked on right now. It's in a draft format, and the Finance Committee is working closely with city staff to create an easily consumable dashboard. So stay tuned. I believe we'll have it ready for to present in September. And that's the end of my report, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, thank you. And department updates.
I'm good, thanks.
Okay, well, all that's left is a motion to adjourn.
I move we adjourn.
Adjourn, second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Anybody opposed? Anyone?
One day, I'm going to say yes.
I don't want to leave.
Just to make it worth your while. Because my lights on there, I'm going to say turn on.
For the record, I just wanted to know that.